All right, welcome. Today I have another video for you guys. We are going to be talking about Swamp Thing. So we're going to be talking about some of the most important keys for Swamp Thing, and we're going to actually try to put some strength to them, some weight of importance and stuff. Because I think between now and the project with James Gunn, you're going to be seeing a lot of random keys pop up here and there. But I wanted to make a list of what was important before James Gunn, so you guys keep in mind what the real important ones are, just to keep things in kind of perspective, and things can always change. But again, this is not for speculators. This is not for if you're looking to invest, or retailers, or this is not for like influencers or anything. This is for like collectors. Again, we're going to be taking some of those aspects because I feel that to be a savvy collector, you got to understand some of those aspects. But again, this is for collectors, just so we can keep things in perspective. Really, like new collectors, maybe they're not new collectors, but maybe they're new to Swamp Thing. Maybe they're new to DC. And again, guys, don't let anybody make you feel bad for liking DC or being interested in DC or wanting to explore DC. I've been collecting DC for a few years now, and I can say like, hey, the more the merrier, man. There's a lot of room over here. I feel like there's something for everyone over here. So and I'm really excited to see people explore DC and rediscover it. Hell, I might be a little bit envious of people who are going to experience Swamp Thing by Alan Moore for the first time. Like, that's gonna be like, oh man, I wish I could do that again. So anyways, let's talk about these keys, man. Primary keys. Primary keys are like the most important keys. These are like the ones that should be at the top of your list, trying to attain. And this is in relevance to the project, okay? So the first one, obviously, House of Secret 92, right? This book, it doesn't need me talking it up. Everybody wants it. Even people who are like DC haters respect this book, because this book has a lot of history to it. Legendary creators are attached to it. It's just an awesome cover. I would say this is probably one of the best first appearance covers of all time. And you can still find a key for about $1,500. It is a pricey book, but in my opinion, for what it is, it's still a little bit undervalued. You can probably get, like I said, a mid-grade for about $1,500. House of Secrets, it looks good even in a low grade, okay? So again, like I said, it is possible. It's a little pricey book, but it is possible to attain it if you remain focused on just getting this book. I think this is a really satisfying book to chase. Next book, again, if you can't get the first appearance, get the second appearance of Swamp Thing, which be the Swamp Thing #1. So this book's got a lot of things going for it. It's the first issue of this first volume of Swamp Thing. It's also the first appearance of Alec Holland, who is the Swamp Thing, which is the version that we know from Alan Moore's run. So again, if you're getting confused, Alex Olson, Alec Holland, whatever, I suggest really get into the books, because there's a lot of lore behind Swamp Thing. Again, I wouldn't get caught up over Alex Olson, Alec Holland, because in the end, it doesn't matter. They both turn into like a muck-encrusted mockery of a man anyways. So again, Swamp Thing #1. Swamp Thing #2. This is the first appearance of Anton Arcane. Anton Arcane is one of like the most horrible, disgusting, evil villains ever. There is no gray line. This guy's like, it's incredibly abusive. He enjoys making people suffer. This guy is evil, man. There is no in between. There is no redemption for Anton Arcane. He is a demon through and through. I feel like they have to bring Anton Arcane into the Swamp Thing cinematic universe, because he would wreak havoc, and I feel like he would just scare audiences. He's just nasty. Next one is Swamp Thing #3, the first appearance of Abby Arcane. Yeah. And if you just notice that they both that she has the same last name as the villain, oh yeah, man. There's some family drama in here in Swamp Thing going on as well. So I definitely say check it out. So anyways, Abby Arcane, she is probably the most important, no, she is the most important supporting character for Swamp Thing. All right, she is his love interest. She is one that makes him feel human, makes him feel like a man again. She also kind of holds him accountable as well sometimes. So very important character. Again, these books were kind of undervalued during the pandemic boom, I would say. You could like pick up slab copies for $50 to $100. So you're probably looking a little bit, probably double that. But I would say these are probably the most important keys for Swamp Thing. And the last one I added to the list was Winter Special. And the reason I added this book is because the cover of this was used as a graphic for James Gunn. And also because this was written by Tom King, and Tom King was selected as one of the writers for James Gunn's, who will be leading the DC Extended Universe. So those are some of the reasons why I picked it up. Now, I don't think that they're going to be basing the movie off of this because it's only a one-shot. But I do feel like they might start off with this as an opening scene, and then, you know, where they start at the end and then they go back to the beginning. This is a great read. If you have not read this, I would suggest you read it. It's a one-shot. You really don't need to read anything else about Swamp Thing. Excellent story. I think it won like some Eisner Awards or something like that. I'm telling you, man, people are sleeping on Tom King. I know a lot of us haven't forgiven him for what he did to Wally and what he did to Batman, but you know, like, but when he's on, man. So next we're going to be talking about the satellite keys. Satellite keys. So the reason I call them satellite keys is because satellite is like a moon. It surrounds the main keys or whatever. I want you guys to start thinking like into keys into like three-dimensional a little bit, instead of just like numbers where it's just kind of flat in 2D. That way we can think in a more like creative way. That way you can start like thinking outside the box for some of these keys. So anyways, satellite keys were usually, once you get the main keys, these are like the ones you start looking at next. I was like, okay, what would go good with my primary keys? And if you're going to be extending a cinematic universe for Swamp Thing, the most logical and only route to go is Justice League Dark. All right, Justice League Dark, that's the way to go. So with Justice League Dark, there's a few keys you can grab. The Justice League Dark by Scott Snyder, fairly recent. I mean, I think it's like a 10-year-old book. You can find a copy for about $50, I think. I haven't really looked at it. It's not a really expensive book. Again, this is the official first appearance. I'm not a really big fan of that official and unofficial. I think they're there or they're not there. Next ones are going to be Swamp Thing number 50 and Swamp Thing Annual number 2. These are unofficial, the first unofficial appearances of the Justice League Dark. But all the characters there, so I would go ahead and pick them up. Again, these aren't really expensive books. You probably pick them up for $20 or less. So I think they're worth having. Again, not super huge. These are just like the team books that bring everything together. More importantly than the team books, I think would be some of the Justice League Dark characters. So I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm just going to go over some of the more important ones, in my opinion. So first one is probably going to be the most important one in relevance to Swamp Thing, and that's going to be John Constantine. So John Constantine appears in Swamp Thing a lot. So you get a Swamp Thing number 37. This book has really spiked over the pandemic because of Keanu Reeves news. He made like some YouTube video interview where they were really teasing at coming back for another Constantine sequel, which I'm all for it, especially now that they have the Elseworlds. I would love another Keanu Reeves John Constantine, but at the same time I also want a new one for the new Swamp Thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm being greedy here, but DC is telling me that I can have my cake and eat it too with Elseworlds, so let's go. I want to see some great interactions between John Constantine and Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing's kind of like always kind of depressed and walking around swamps, and then John Constantine just shows up out of nowhere just to ridicule him, because that's who John Constantine is. Again, these are like some really fun interactions. Next one would be obviously Hawkman number 4, which is the first appearance of Zatanna. You get a decent copy from $600 to $1,000 in the CGC mid-grade. Excellent book. Zatanna is, I think, a hidden gem in the DC. Another one would be The Demon number 1 by Jack Kirby. I believe this is more of a Bronze Age book, and this is a great, some great covers in there. So Etrigan the Demon, he's part of the Justice League Dark. He also shows up in Swamp Thing periodically. He shows up in a lot of stuff. And he's just awesome when he does show up. Even when he showed up in Sandman, I was like, this guy's cool, man. And the next one would be Strange Adventures number 205, the first appearance of Deadman. Deadman is just a really cool character. If you haven't checked out some of the stories he's in, very interesting character. Again, you're probably looking at a 500. This is a Silver Age book for this character, but totally worth it in my opinion. But he is one of the important parts of Justice League Dark character. So some of the satellite keys that are more attainable would be Swamp Thing number 49, which is the first appearance of the Parliament Trees. So the Parliament Trees is to Swamp Thing what the Guardians from Oa are to the Green Lanterns, right? If that makes sense, loosely a little bit. So they're kind of like the central of the green or whatever. Anyways, but they do play an important role, especially when they start expanding the lore, especially because they're used as a way to explain the reason why we had an Alex Olsen, why we had an Alec Holland, and now we have a Levi. So very important key, I think, to the lore of the Swamp Thing. Next one is going to be Swamp Thing number 90. This is the first appearance of Tefe, which is the daughter of Swamp Thing and Abby Arcane. In 2000, she got her own series. I think she's really cool. She has all the powers of Swamp Thing without his looks. So I think she dodged the bullet there. So very important character. I think this is a character nobody really talks about, but she does become an important part, especially in future and later issues for Swamp Thing. Alright, so that's it for the satellite covers. Now we're going to be talking about the cover buys. So usually I start off with cover grails for the most important ones. Obviously the most important cover in Swamp Thing is going to be House of Secret 92. Excellent great tone Bernie Wrightson cover. There's no topping that. But that is the first appearance. After that, there's a really steep drop off. If you're looking for some of the more classic covers, you're going to look at 1 through 10. Even the later ones right after Bernie Wrightson by Dominguez are still really good, but the ones that everyone looks for are the Bernie Wrightson first 10. Some of my personal favorites are number 5, where there's that mob. There's actually a minor first appearance there of a magic Justice League Dark character in the future. And I love the vibe of it. It's kind of like Beauty and the Beast, because that's what Swamp Thing really is. If you like really oversimplify it and take all of the complexities out, it's a Beauty and the Beast story. It's the most simple way to explain Swamp Thing. And then number 9. I think number 9 is an excellent. I love it. It looks great, where he's just kind of like rising out of the muck. Excellent cover. Another cover that I would like to look at would be Swamp Thing number 34 with Alan Moore. This is a cover by John Totleben. In my opinion, this is the best cover of the Alan Moore run. And there's some really good ones in there as well. So the next covers I'd be on the lookout for would be all the artsy, abstract ones that come in after like around 90, where you start getting into a low print run. There's a lot of great covers in there. There's a lot of awesome covers there. So these are low print. However, they're not exactly ghosts, because not exactly everyone's looking for them right at this moment. So you can still find them, but you do have to put in a little bit of effort to find it. These aren't exactly back issue fodder. So anything like after 90, especially when you're starting to get into the high hundreds, and the last issue would be 171. It's a cover by John Totleben. Great cover with Swamp Thing like becoming the one with the universe, as holding the earth and stuff like that. This is the last issue of that, so I'd be on the lookout for. If you're looking for something a little bit more modern, the recent run with Levi has some pretty good covers, not gonna lie. But I think my favorite one was the Justice League Dark one by Clayton Crane. I think that's still probably my favorite modern Swamp Thing cover. So that's it for Swamp Thing. I know this video was a little bit longer than Supergirl, but that's because Swamp Thing has a little bit more history. But just wait till we do Green Lanterns. There's so many keys in Green Lantern. So many keys. So again, awesome if you decided that you're going to start collecting Swamp Thing. I'm very envious of your journey that you will be taking on this journey. I'm very envious, but also very happy to see that people are starting to get into some of this DC dark stuff and starting to get a little bit more into DC. So with that being said, if you guys have a favorite Swamp Thing cover, let me know. Yeah, that's it for the video. All right, you guys stay cool.